So my next question is how? Like, what's the output? You're mentioning like Python code, and there's a tech aspect to your website too. Now, I grew up programming my Apple IIe computer. I'm just giving away my tender youth. I remember programming in Pascal on my Apple IIe. I
Very
get
cool.
coding, and your site has a codey kind of feel to it, and then you do show results of some bots in action with a lot of green and less red, which is encouraging, but at the same time, it heightens a little bit of my skepticism. And then I'm just wondering, like, how much of the burden of this falls on a non-code? You say for non-coders. The second you bring up the opposite, it makes people feel that it's that. So for non-coders, I mean, what do I do? I'm an investor. I'll register with you. I'll have a subscription. What do I need to do here?
Yeah, so I think a really good analogy of how our platform works from like a technical standpoint. There's a bunch of other websites right now that can do this for creating websites, right? So if you've heard of Lovable, or if you've
they're the vibe coders. That's why I call you guys the vibe coders of trading. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So we actually took a page out of Lovable. We actually, in some ways, copied a lot of their design because I think it makes a lot of sense for what we do. So in Lovable, you'll go to Lovable and you'll tell it, make me a website that does X, Y, Z, has this button with this thing here, and it makes that website for you. And then you work back and forth with it. It's like this co-pilot, right? It's like, no, the button needs to be higher up. No, this should be blue, not green. I want this extra feature in here that does this. You can talk to Lovable that way, right? We basically are doing the same thing with trading strategies, right? Where you could create that trading strategy. It creates the first thing for you. You look at the flow chart, you look at the write-up, you look at the back test. Did it do what I wanted to do? Maybe no. Maybe we should instead have a stop loss a little bit bigger. Maybe instead of trading Tesla, we should trade Palantir.
Is it a visual UI? Like,
yes.
Am I moving dials and ranges? How do I interact with this data?
So you're not moving dials or anything like that. No. Although we might add some things kind of like that in the future, because there's parameters they can actually tweak. But it's more of you're talking to it, you're writing to it in English, right? So you're telling it, build me this. It builds that out for you. You now see a flow chart of how it would work, right? So, I could show you a flow chart. Basically, for example, a Palantir option trading algorithm. The flow chart might look something like start and then go get Palantir's price. Okay, and if Palantir's price,
and just to clarify, by Palantir, you're talking about buying shares of Palantir. Correct. You're not talking about using Palantir's AI technology. Just to clarify, right?
No, absolutely, buying Palantir stock, or options, right? So say you want to buy their stock options, right? The flow chart might say something like, get Palantir stock price. Is stock price above whatever? And then there's a yes or a no, and it splits up, right? And then if yes, then okay, are there options right now at the money, right? Okay, and then if yes, then do the next thing. You see the flow chart of how this code would logically go through that, right? Because at the heart of it, and just like Lovable, right? And I don't know if you're aware of how Lovable does this. When you ask it to build a website for you, it actually codes it in HTML and JavaScript. It writes that code for you, except that's hidden from you as a user.
Right.
Because you don't need to see that, right? That's too complicated. Don't worry about it, right? If you want to, though, you can get into it, right? If you yourself a coder, you might want to see how the algorithm actually works. And you can actually go through line by line of code. You have the Python code available to you, and you can kind of say, okay, is this doing what I want to do, whatever. And then you can even edit the code and save it. And you could do like a manual process that way if you want to. But for the majority of the users, you don't need to worry about that, right? We'll give you a flow chart. We'll explain it to you in English, what it looks like. We'll explain it to you through back tests. We could see where did it actually trade, at what point did it buy and sell and all that kind of stuff. And you can look at charts, graphs. This is how most investors look at things, right? They want to see flow charts. They want to see a description written in English, right? Usually in English, unless you're a different, country. You want to see a trading chart, right? You want to see your indicators on a chart. That's what we provide to you, right? And then you can go and say, I don't like this indicator, or no, why did it place a trade on Wednesday? It's supposed to place a trade on Thursday instead. And you can have that conversation back and forth until you have this thing that works really well for you.